could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning. Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live from Armenia, Candio, Colombia. And not coffee. It's the last, I got this much left of the Gatorade. I've been living on Gatorade and Jello, but I'm feeling good. I had my first big meal Saturday. It wasn't that big, but yeah, food poisoning's not fun. I mean, usually you get it. In my life, I've had, I've traveled a lot. I've had it. Actually, I've had the worst in the U.S., but it's usually like 3 days, and this went a week. But just how it goes. First, the weather. It says it's 77 degrees. I'm guessing it's maybe a little bit more. It's not always accurate. We're going to have a high today of about 80, and we're going to have a low of somewhere around 5 or 6 in the morning of about 63 degrees. Kind of the same every day during El Niño. This afternoon or this evening, we're probably going to get a little rain. I'm guessing probably mid-afternoon, but again, you never know. We'll see some rain at some point. And the Colombian peso is at 39.25. It's been bouncing around 20 points up, 20 points down. It's basically been the same for a number of weeks. And let's take a look outside. Kind of a beautiful day. I know the camera sucks, but it's you can see there's blue sky there. You can see lots of puffy clouds. You could see the second, almost the third mountain range. And yeah, it's pretty nice. Pretty nice. But the UV is going to be, it's going to be high. So use that sunscreen. Wear a hat. Yeah, okay, I don't use sunscreen. I don't wear a hat. But you don't have to be as stupid as me. I never liked the Gatorade. I still don't like Gatorade. It's nasty. I don't even understand. They say, well, you gotta get these electrolytes in your system. And all right, so people that know me, I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. And from there, I got the contagion. I was a runner for a while. Not like marathons, but I would run like 6 miles a day, 5 days a week. And in the Marine Corps, after the Marine Corps, we never bothered with electrolytes. I mean, what the hell is an electrolyte? If it got really bad, and I spent a lot of time in the tropics, you'd pop a salt pill. You know, you just drink lots of water and have a salt pill. But, you know, they say you dehydrate when, you know, you're shooting from both ends of the gun. And so I said, all right, well, we'll do some Gatorade. Whatever it was I had to afford, not even water was making me nauseous. So, I mean, it was just horrible. So I had orange Gatorade and orange Jello brought to me by a friend because I didn't dare leave the house for a while. Anyway, we're not here for that. Today, I've got a hot topic. It's not really a hot topic, but it's a topic that people always want me to talk about, and I almost never do. And because we're coming up on Valentine's Day and a few other things out there, you know, I'm always getting messages and things. I decided that I'm going to try to give perspective to this financial aspect of dating. So we're going to do that. But first, we're going to hit some news topics. Not a lot, but yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, before that, let's get to the chat. Let's see what's going on there. All right, so we've got contribution from Juka, from George. How you doing, George? And from Mr. Anonymous Jerry. Thank you very much. Greetings from Finland. How you doing? Watch out for that bear. You know, the one on your border. Mr. Turtle, how you doing, Turtle? Michael Meyer, good morning from Los Angeles. Ben Lake, another Mr. Anonymous. Buen dia, how you doing? Mike, how you doing, Mike? Dr. Leo, good morning from Texas. Gil, good morning from Northern California. Robert Canton, saludos from Montreal. I was born 100 miles north of there. Not officially. Sebastian, how you doing, Sebastian? Good morning from Lake Michigan. Yeah, that's not the place to be right now. Beautiful. Oh, you mean the that? Yeah, it's pretty nice out. And I was doing a lot of walking recently, and until this last week, and I started getting cabin fever. So starting tomorrow, I should be out walking around again. Buenos dias, MB90. How you doing? I'm doing fine. I'm doing real good, actually. Okay. Every day you're not sick is definitely a blessing. I've never been so sick in my life as the last handful of years. It's always something. All right, so let's get to some news topics. First one up, kind of interesting. There's a related story to this, but I didn't want to go into it. So we've got environmental authority will take measures to protect the Andean bear sighted in Cordoba. Now, if you know the area, Cordoba is not that far south of here. It's between Armenia and Pijao. So it's pretty close. I mean, a handful of miles. It's just not that far. Probably takes about a half an hour to get there because the roads, you know, but when they say Andean bear, what they're talking about is, you may know it as the speckled bear. And I found this interesting because of this.
Señores, aquí tenemos el oso comiéndose la novilla, véalo. Ahí lo pueden ver. Debe ser el oso anteojos, vea. Ahí se fue con el pedazo, véalo. Ahí salió, véalo, véalo, véalo. Vea qué hermosura, vea. Mírenlo. Ahí paró otra vez. ¡Niño! Se nos comió la novillita, vea. Ahí lo puede ver, pues. ¡Ole, ole! ¡Yo condenado! ¡Se comió la novilla, pues, marica!
Not so sure that's the wisest move, but just a reminder, there are bears, and in near Manizales, this is Quindío, and where Manizales is, that's the state of Caldas or department. There's a puma roaming around killing farm animals and some neighborhood dogs, and so they're trying to find it. These things, you know, they do exist, although I'll probably never see one. You kind of have to be out there, and you know, I'm a country boy that's turned into a city boy, I think. Let's see, Carlos, good morning from Coral Springs. How you doing? Wolfgang Kruger, good day from Barranquilla. It's been a while since I watched live, usually watching English and German football. And yeah, I didn't even mention, because I could care less, but today is Super Bowl, I think. Could care less. Who's going to win? I don't care. It makes no difference. It doesn't affect my life. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. Anyway, do I sound bitter? No, maybe, no. No, it just very apathetic. Robert Stewart, saludos from Austin, Texas. Our other Robert, he's in Medellin this weekend, doing some wedding crasher stuff. Okay, let's see. Next article. Some of you like these kind of things. I again, didn't mean much to me, but I get questions about farming. And I've learned a little because I get questions, so I ask questions. I know a couple people with farms. But here's one that it's an expanded program. In Colombia, farmers will create their own fertilizers. Now, what they have here, and it's not so much about environmental aspects or health aspects, although they're of course there and people are aware of them, but they tend to do their own fertilizing and they tend to do their own composting. And in Colombia, they've set up a plant for the community, and the government has agreed to truck in, you know, old fruits and vegetables, organic waste that can be composted and turned into fertilizer. And for years here in Quindío, that's been the method of choice, simply because you can do it pretty cheap. And fertilizers can be pretty expensive. So I know there's many of you that are interested in that. You know, it's like, you know, am I getting chemicals when I eat? And it's like, who knows? You know, who knows? Probably not. I think you got a better chance of it here. You know, if you're in the US or Canada, you got, you know, pretty high chance that you're going to be getting them. On the other hand, all chemicals aren't bad. You know, so just on this, I mean, chemicals are natural and organic for the most part. Of course, they might combine them in a weird way, but for those who are interested, that's kind of what goes on here. And I'm speaking for Quindío. I'm not speaking for everywhere in Colombia. All right, next one is a blow to wildlife trafficking. 19 species were rescued in 5 municipalities of Caldas. Again, that's the department where Manizales is. I can see it out my window on a clear day. So why am I putting this up here? Well, the animals are like parrots. You got a little red squirrel there. All that's pretty cool. It was a snake that, you know, people had got. And it's a real problem in Colombia. because there are so many unique animals, and some of the macaws and parrots will bring huge money on a world market. So it's definitely an issue. But I didn't put it up there because of that. I put it up there because of the hat. The hat really caught my eye because, again, Marine Corps, to me, it's a drill instructor's hat, except a drill instructor's hat has a flat brim. And this thing is kind of turned up, but I'd never seen it before. And I still don't know what to think about it, but we got a Smokey the Bear. Some people say Smokey Bear. I've always said Smokey the Bear. We got a Smokey hat here, you know, like a U.S. Forest Ranger, but they turn the brim up. And okay, it's pointless, it's meaningless. I found it kind of interesting, and I still don't know what I think of it. Let's see, I grew up in Colombia until 1993 and never heard of these animals being seen near towns. We knew they existed, but I guess there's much fewer back then. Good for fauna, but here comes the conflict. Not necessarily, you still don't, I mean, it's very rare. But what you do have is everybody's got a cell phone in their hand and everybody's got internet. And so this guy, if you go back to 1990, he saw that bear, he'd tell a couple neighbors, and that was the end of the story. Now he just pulls a cell phone out, takes a video, he uploads it, and goes viral. So they've always been there. The population has been relatively stable on these animals. So I think it's more what I'm saying than that, you know, they had a population boom and they're getting much larger and encroaching and like that. I don't really think that's the case. When I lived here before 2021 to 2022, I remember some stories about pumas. I was living in Pereira, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember something about pumas. I think it was, that's Risaralda department, but I think it was in Candio, but I wouldn't swear to it. So anyway, there's that. Next to last, doesn't mean a lot, but just a reminder. So they put a headline out, despite the rains, the El Nino phenomenon continues in Candio. A lot of people, when we got a lot of rainfall those few days, for some reason, people interpreted that as, okay, it's the end of El Nino, we're going to go back to normal. In other words, it's going to cool down and we're going to get more rain. And that's not the case at all. El Nino is probably going to run through April. It's nice to see the rain is back, but we're not getting anywhere near what we usually do. And if we get a couple more weeks of a dry spell like we had recently, we could even get in a situation where available water could be a problem in a place where it's endless water. I don't think it'll get there, and the rain certainly helped replenish quickly. But I don't know. So it was a headline because there's talk about this. You know, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the weather, right? All right. And the last article that I'm scratching my head, I'm chuckling, I'm thinking, what a damn shame. Once again, the traffic light network in Armenia is affected by thefts. Traffic lights run on copper wires, copper cables. And so you got thieves that, just like with the Christmas lights that I talked about around Christmas, where they put up these Christmas decorations, thieves came in at night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and clipped copper cables out of it, and they had to go back and fix them. Well, now they've hit up a few traffic lights. And the problem with the traffic lights is when they're taking the cables, they're not being the least bit careful, and they're shorting out these rather expensive computer chips that are in the system that apparently do the light timing or whatever, which work like crap, and so they might as well not have them. But that's, you know, that's another thing. Maybe it goes to who's programming it. You know, I'm just in much of the world where, let's say you got a long stretch of road and you could see traffic light after traffic light, and once you get a green one, if you go a certain speed, you can catch the next screen and the next screen and next, and you can make pretty good time. It doesn't work so much here, but then again, you don't get the long straights and you can't really get to a certain speed, and yeah, it just doesn't work out. All right, that's all I got for news. So now we're going to get to the topic. This is not a topic I like to cover because you get all these wisecracking comments, you get people making all kinds of assumptions. But we're going to talk about it today because I think it's important, but maybe not in the aspect that some people might think. I'm going to begin by telling you a little story of my life prior to when I got cancer, couldn't work anymore. I moved to this apartment complex because the location was expedient for me. Didn't know anything about it. Got there, moved in. It was a big complex. It was one of these apartment buildings with first floor, second floor, 4 apartments in each building. Maybe 6, I think 4 in each building. And there's maybe 20 buildings that went up and down this road, and lots of parking space. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but this was in North Carolina. So I move in, and it was interesting. I was the only white face in an entirely black complex. And there was a time about a year before me moving there, I had a sheriff friend who told me, don't move there. And they told me the history, and I said, well, that was a year ago. He said, yeah. So anyway, I moved there, and the reason for all the cautionary tales was this was a hotbed of a very well-known gang that goes all across the United States. It goes by the color red, and they had cleaned them out, except they didn't really. So they still existed there. What does this have to do with Valentine's Day, and what does this have to do with finances and relationships? Well, I'm getting to it. So I observed certain things. You had a lot of people would be outside. They would, particularly early evening, they would go out and kind of socialize and make jokes and have fun and drink a beer and like that. It was a very social community. And you had a pecking order, and there were certain people, who knows what their employment was. They always seemed to have money to show off, and gold chains and a nice car, and yeah, who knows what their profession was. But whatever their profession was, they had money. This complex was mostly inhabited by people on the poverty end of things. So these people were like, I don't know, like the Godfather. People would come to them for this, that, and the other thing because they had the money. So if you don't have any money, you go where the money is if you need something. And so they had this hierarchy. They had this thing. It was a social thing. It was very interesting, actually. But what you soon realize is that all the pretty girls of the complex would kind of flock around these guys, and they had it almost like a harem, Again, who knows all the details, and I noticed especially single moms would really gravitate towards these guys. So again, what the hell why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I want you to put things in perspective. Because I'm living here in Colombia, and I'm hearing all the time, either said in a nice way or in a crude and crass way, that our women here are, tramps and gold diggers and all these kind of things. And I think we need to talk about it today to put this in perspective. When you have poverty, no matter where it is in this world, if you have poverty, you're going to have people that have needs. And if it's introduced into their lives, people that have money to spare, they're always going to look at that, and they might be jealous, they might be envious, they might have temptation, but because of their upbringing and their conservative roots, they don't want to act on anything. They don't want to ask because, you know, they have pride. But you get to the point where we're struggling to pay rent. We don't want to live on the street. And I know this guy who walks around and throws money like it doesn't mean anything. And that'll be the first part of this, I think, is when people come here from outside of Colombia, they don't understand the economy here. And because they have a higher earning, somehow they set themselves above. And they feel, because everything seems so cheap to them, they feel like, oh, these poor people, let me throw a tip here. Let me, you know, it's like I had a 20,000 peso meal and I gave them a 50,000 peso tip. Well, that sends a lot of messages. And I'm not going to get into the tipping aspects, but people will see that and see a foreigner and say, he's got no regard, no respect for money. It's crude, it's crass, it's something, you know, that's just not done in this culture anyway. It didn't used to be done. You don't throw money around. You don't even show money. You kind of keep it covert. And here you got these foreigners coming from Europe and from Canada and from the United States acting like it really has no meaning to them. Oh, everything's just so cheap. It doesn't matter. So these people send a signal that resounds throughout Colombia, even in places where they'll never see a foreigner, gringo, whatever. But the word is out that for foreigners, they have so much money, it doesn't matter what happens to it. And so you set yourself up where if somebody robs from a foreigner, it doesn't matter, because I take his cell phone, he can go buy another one tomorrow. It doesn't really affect him. But I can get that cell phone and sell it and, you know, put groceries on the table. And then that same foreigner turns around and talks about, you know, the petty thieves. Well, you know, in the United States, it was always a story about you don't leave your wallet on the seat of your car, you know, because you're inviting a thief. You're taking somebody who normally wouldn't even steal, and you're making it so irresistible that they'll break into your car and steal that wallet. Well, see, it's the same everywhere. It's not because they're Colombian. So yes, we're going to get to the dating aspect, but you know me, I got to take a long drive around the scenery first. So you have men come here because they've heard, and a lot of truth to it, obviously, that it's easy to find a girlfriend here. Well, it is, comparatively speaking, but it kind of depends on what you're looking for. See, the men that come here that treat money like it has no meaning also tend to use money to manipulate and control females. So if you walk up on somebody that is poor and they're struggling to put food on the table, and you walk up and wave a couple 100,000 pesos under their nose, it's the wallet on the seat of the car. You're tempting them to do things that maybe they wouldn't want to do, but you know, they feel like a rock in a hard place. You know, I've been poor on that level. I understand that temptation, and a lot of people won't succumb to it, but a fair number of people will succumb to it. And so then there's a guy saying, well, I can get anybody, maybe in his own mind, some vocalize it, well, I can get whatever I want for $20, $30, $40. You know, I can manipulate, I can control these people, I can keep them coming back because I've got some money in my pocket. Well, obviously that's not going to get you any kind of relationship. It's going to get you exactly what it is. On the other side of the coin, you have women, particularly in Medellin, that have been trained by these foreigners that money doesn't mean anything. They'll throw it away. They'll do anything for it, including expose themselves to very risky situations. So they can set up with a couple low rent bandits that they know, lure them into a situation and steal their phone and their laptop and whatever. And they don't have to have scopolamina to do it. And so that goes on. And then the story goes out that, this is what it is. Well, that whole ugly scenario that I just described, both men and women, it's not exclusive to Medellin and Bogota, but that kind of stuff is primarily there. It's not the kind of stuff you see in the rest of Colombia, or you certainly don't see it very often. Women, on the other hand, if you have some that have less moral scruples, they might lie and cheat to try to scam you. But you also have the majority, by far, the vast majority, that will be sincere. And what they're actually looking for is not so much the money, but security. And again, it's a worldwide thing. So if you have somebody that's on the line of poverty down to extreme poverty, so near 30% of most populations of the world, and if that's the pool that you're fishing in, you're going to find a certain level of desperation there. You're also going to find the majority that have morals and have a good upbringing that will find you attractive because you represent safety and security. And when you're living in poverty, that becomes one of the primary focuses in life. And so a guy can come here, you can run into a girl that fits in that category, and she can have all the sincerity in the world. But this guy, he's heard all kinds of stories about how, they're gold diggers, and if they mention anything about money, you're getting screwed. And, it's like he's all paranoid and suspicious. And here's this girl that's sincere and she wants to develop a relationship, but she's living in poverty. And so the guy's going out with her for a while and, she's seeing him. And he's not realizing that she doesn't really have the money even for bus fare, because every time she does that, it's a meal that she's got to skip. Or rent comes up and, he's so worried about getting robbed that he's watching this person that he thinks he wants a relationship with, whose life is getting worse because she's seeing him. So what's my point here? Should you give money? Should you not give money? It kind of depends on the situation. First, you have to recognize between the liars and cheats and the scammers, the ones that are looking at you because they see a fool, they see somebody who doesn't care about money, therefore it might as well go in their pocket, and they'll tell you whatever you want to know. But they're kind of glorified hookers, and they're just going to do whatever to get whatever they can out of you. They exist everywhere. In the US, we call them gold diggers. So yeah, you're going to see that. On the other hand, these that are sincere, if you want to have a relationship with somebody in that area, then you've got to be involved in their life. And that means you're going to need to help out a little bit. Now, I'm not saying every person that you meet, you should be throwing money at them. No, you should get to know that person. You should know them enough to have a certain confidence level. And then they're investing in you in that relationship. You're kind of an ass if you don't invest in them. And I don't mean, run out and buy like the hottest cell phone, but if they can't put food on the table, maybe go buy some groceries and, invite yourself for lunch and bring a bunch of groceries, or, something. Be creative about it to keep somebody's pride intact you know, so you don't get a temptation to try to manipulate and control. But you care about this person, so you know you want to make time with you not a deficit on their end, but a plus. And so you can actually build a relationship. There's nothing wrong. If you're dating in the pool of poverty, this is what you need to do. Now, if that's not what you need to do, then don't date in the pool of poverty. There's plenty of girls out there. But let's be real. A lot of the guys that are coming here are old geezers like me, or, you know, maybe in the US, nobody will give them a second look, but in a foreign country, they're interesting, they're exotic, you know, and maybe they have money. And so, you know, their value goes up. And so females are going to look at that and maybe give you a second look. However, as you climb the ladder of income here, you're going to see less of that. So if you see a girl that's middle class, upper middle class, and she's knockout gorgeous, and you're an old toad like me, probably don't have a lot of chance with her because you don't really have anything to offer to her life. And people look at it that way. It's not like you just walk up and, particularly outside of the US, people weigh the pluses and minuses. And if you don't bring anything to their life, why would they give you a second look? So if you want to find somebody that's above your station, you know, as far as looks, or maybe they're younger, attractive, all of those things, you're going to have to go to the lesser income to find that, because in that pool, you have something to offer. Now, if you don't want any of that, that's fine. What some people can do is, all right, I know more than one person who has done this. And it's actually pretty clever depending on what you want and what you're after. I want somebody, for example, I want somebody that can keep my house and not be a mom, but be, you know, like a wife around the house and keep everything straight and help me keep organized and you know, keep my day intact like that. All right, that's great. Or if you're older and you get sick, you know, you got somebody who can run to the doctor and interpret for you or whatever. All right, that's fine. But it doesn't have to be a girlfriend. You could hire a housekeeper. You can get a housekeeper for $1 million, $1.5 million pesos that are practically full time. You know, make you meals, you know, cook you lunch before they leave. They can cook dinner. So you got kind of a, you know, pseudo wife. Okay, what happens about the, you know, the other part of being a man? You know, what about that? Prostitution is legal in Colombia. And here in Armenia, the very top end of the university gorgeous girls is about 160,000 pesos for 2 hours. So that's, what is that? It's under $40 for a couple hours. You know, so maybe once a week or whatever, I don't know how you operate. So maybe you got a housekeeper, you got that, all your needs are taken care of. I know a couple people that have done that, and they're quite happy. One of them that I know, he's going on 5 years of that kind of arrangement. And, you know, whatever works for you, as long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're not using people and trying to manipulate them. I mean, you could do that too, I guess. I would find you a scumbag. Most people would. But you have to put all of these things in perspective. You have to understand that it's not about Colombia. It's not about the Philippines. It's not about Thailand. It's not about that complex that I lived in North Carolina. It's the human condition. The farther down the spectrum you get to desperation, trying to survive, the more apt whatever level of money you have is going to be viewed as something useful and helpful. And so if you have a personality let's say you're ugly, let's say you're fat, let's say you're old, but you got enough money to support 3 people. Well, all of a sudden you can become very attractive because you represent stability. So from the people, from the ladies here that are real and sincere and actually want to know and like somebody and appreciate them, they're going to, even if they're poor, they're going to gauge your level of respect. They're going to gauge your level of kindness. They're going to gauge whether you're an honest person or not. And then if you add to that, that you can provide security, you've kind of painted the picture of the perfect man to many, many women in this country and in countries around the world. I mean, if you're struggling from dinner to dinner and a breath away from living on the street, why wouldn't that just be the ultimate attraction to them? So that's how, you know, guys can come here and not get a second look by the people that they're associating with in the countries that they came from. Because for the most part, the guys that are coming here lived generally a basic middle-class life. Maybe not upper, but a basic middle-class life. And from one thing or another, they end up retiring and mostly on Social Security. I see primarily people come to other countries because they can live better on Social Security. But all the people that they know and their family and all of that tend not to be on the poverty level that we're talking about. They were middle class. And so they're in the pool competing with, okay, let's say he's 65 years old and he's got a beer gut and he's struggling on Social Security. You know, he's living in the poverty level, and he sees some hottie that's 40 years old or 20 or 30 or whatever, who's gainfully employed and has her own car and she's doing well. She's not going to consider this guy. Now, I'm not saying you got to go find somebody who's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years younger than you, or whatever it is. If you're 90, you know, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that the attractiveness you have is directly related to the inverse of the money that somebody else has, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. So this passport bros thing, where you wouldn't get a second thought in the United States. Plus, we can get to all the social things about how attitudes have changed and the war of the sexes and all of that kind of ugliness too. But essentially, you're in the U.S., you've had your relationships, you're on the downhill slide of life. You're on the Frank Sinatra side of life, you know. You're in the December months of the whatever. But you don't want to be alone. You want to have sexual activity. You want to have social activity. You want to have a friend. You want to have somebody to give you a help. Maybe your arthritis kicks up and you could use a hand. Maybe all of those things. And you're not going to find it in Canada or in the United States or whatever, unless you were smart enough to find the right woman and marry her for the rest of your life. So what do? Well, the ones that are known are people talk about Colombia. Why do they talk about Colombia? Well, the women are beautiful and attitudes are rather open here. Not with everybody, but with a lot of people, attitudes are fairly open. And so you'll have people that are more open to things that you might be interested in. And I don't just mean sexual. I just mean in general. They're more open to being with a foreigner, where there's other countries that, that would be like everybody would look at them like there's something wrong. You went out with a foreigner. What's wrong with you? When I lived in Japan, it was kind of like that. I had a couple girlfriends when I was in Japan, and they kind of suffered over the fact that they were with a foreigner, even though I was young and strong and handsome at the time. It's just, different cultures. So Colombia is attractive in that sense. And Colombians tend to like Americans. There's a long history. It goes back pre-Simon Bolivar, pre the Republic of Colombia. So this long history, even though it's been a speckled history, there's been more good than bad. And so there's affinity for Americans. There's almost like, it's almost like you got an in, And there's other places. The Philippines is like that also. If you look at the history of the Philippines, they love Americans. And to a lesser extent, Canada, we'll throw them in there. Wink, wink. So these come to the top of the list with people looking to form a relationship later in their life. But the ideas of guys going into it thinking, well, I've got more money than them. To them, I appear to be rich. And so if I throw the money around, that will be like throwing chum in the water, and I'll track these beautiful women. I can capture one. I mean, guys are just going about this the entire wrong way. And if you meet somebody and you're just kind of right up front trying to look generous, trying to look like, you're tipping and, like wasting your money, you've lost respect from that very person you're trying to impress. Unless they're kind of maybe just looking at you for being an ATM anyway. So Colombian people are wonderful people, and they have great values. They have great conservative values. And it's been corrupted by foreigners. I won't just say the U.S., because it's not just the U.S., but it's been corrupted by foreigners. When I lived here 20 years ago, you almost never saw, foreigners didn't come to Colombia. That's back during the Troubles. And almost every woman or girl that I met and had conversation with, or what turned into my wife, would tell me about, it was like the big goal. If I put a percentage, I say 95% of the women would go out dancing. It was all salsa back then. They would go out dancing with somebody their own age, but if they wanted a relationship, they looked for somebody that was 20 to 40 years older, because it represented stability. It represented, they probably won't cheat on me. They probably won't get me knocked up and leave. They probably have established themselves in life and have enough money to support me, so I'm not going to struggle. Because there weren't a lot of opportunities back then. And so that was like the prime driver. But that didn't mean that they didn't love you. You can love somebody for a lot of reasons. And if you're giving somebody a safe and secure life and you're treating them with respect and kindness, they can love you for that. And they wouldn't leave you ever because you gave them that. So consider all of these things when you're making your judgments. Consider, what pond are you fishing in? And consider your contribution to the ugly side of the story about this, if there is any. And don't be, I started to talk about this and I got away from it, as I tend to. Don't be throwing your money around in the beginning. Get to know somebody, get to gain a certain level of trust. I don't mean after a week. And it doesn't have to be a lifetime. It doesn't have to be 6 months, but get to the point where you're not using this person and wasting their money. You're covering basic costs. You invite them out. It's your obligation to pay. But you're not throwing money at them. And see how things go. And if it turns out that they're coming across as kind of sincere and true and blue, and if you can't tell, then read some books, get some experience, talk to some people. I don't think it's that difficult to tell. It may be in a short period of time, but after a few weeks, you know, people can't uphold lies for such a long time. Then, by all means, help their situation, whatever you can do. You know, if it's real, sincere, it's headed in that direction, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're not a fool for doing that. You're kind of an ass if you don't help somebody that you're trying to build a future with and you supposedly care about, but you're watching them struggle when it's not necessary. But you've got to weigh these things out. You just can't go in and do that. You will lose all respect. You might as well just forget that girl right at the beginning. The minute you did that, it's over. Let me take a look at, got a couple comments here. I don't know if I got anything else to mention. Oh, yeah, I do. I got a couple scams I'm going to warn you about. John Ross. Whoop. Where do we go here? There we go. John Ross, just found your channel a real treasure. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Wolfgang. Well said. This is very true. My Colombian wife and I met in the U.S. 23 years ago. I was 47 at the time. She was 33. Now been married 22 years and living in her hometown of Barranquilla. Sweet. My ex-Colombian wife, who's one of the best people I ever met in my life, we were married for 8 years, was, like I say, one of the best people I could ever know. Robert, contribution, thank you very much. Mr. Anonymous, thank you. I appreciate it. Todd Monroe, thank you for the contribution. And yes, I know that if I talked on this topic all the time, I'd get a lot more contributions. I don't talk about it, and this may be the last time you hear for a long time. Like I say, because a lot of things could be misinterpreted. I don't need the ugly comments that you get in chat. I don't need certain assumptions. And when I talk off the cuff, and I tend to bring in life examples. I certainly avoided today. I thought about showing some pictures of ladies I've dated here and talked a little bit, but no, that would be kind of crude and crass, I think. So no. Okay. Couple scams. Now these are the biggies. I'm going to tell you two. And these are the ones that on the scale of scams, these are like the most frequent, most common out there. First of all, I had my cell phone stolen. I broke my cell phone. Something cell phone. I don't have a cell phone. I'm using my cousin's cell phone right now to let you know, but I'm not going to be able to message you for a while. I won't be able to contact you because I don't have a cell phone. Well, gee, she's a pretty hot chick. You know, she's 22 years old and she's got a smoking body, and I'm going to be going down to Colombia in a few weeks and I want to meet up with her. Yeah, it's a couple $100. I could get her a cell phone. So what the hell? It's not a big deal. It's, you know, it's an investment. If I don't get anything back, then so be it. There's a lot of girls in a lot of countries that know exactly that, and they're going to hit you up with cell phone. Why would you be buying a cell phone? Why? What? Do you really know this person? If you're here and you've known somebody for a period of time, recently I had an old cell phone that was working like crap, and it had the worst camera in the world. And I gave that to somebody who actually had broken their cell phone. But I knew that person, and I saw the broken cell phone. They weren't asking me for anything, but there they are, and they couldn't afford a new one. And I happened to have this one that I was thinking about throwing away. It wasn't a very good one to begin with, but it did work. So I gave that cell phone. But that's a whole different thing. I didn't hand over cash. So if you know somebody, that's one thing. But if you barely know somebody, or if you're corresponding, where most of this takes place, if it's, even if you're in country, if it's, excuse me, if it's done via WhatsApp or some message, I don't know. Why is it your responsibility? So there's that one. And the second one that's a biggie is myself, my aunt, my nephew, my whatever is in the hospital. And they send you a couple pictures, usually no faces, but they'll show the IV hookup or they'll show sitting on a hospital bed. And we don't have money for medicine. And, it's like, oh crap, it's like, it's only 50,000 pesos for, $12-15 for the medicine, and I can make a real difference and whatever. But that's a huge scam. It's not to say that somebody doesn't end up in the hospital and that could be real, but I'm telling you, this happens all the time. If it's a Tinder girl, there's a good chance that if somebody's hitting you up for a cell phone, or if they're in the hospital and why would they even be telling you about their aunt in the hospital just out of the blue? Unless they're clever enough to work it into a story somehow where it just sort of comes up. But they're usually not clever like that. They usually just send you photos of an IV, and it's like, oh, I'm so stressed out, I don't know what I'm going to do. My aunt, it's like, I'm so worried, I've been crying all night, and tugging at the heartstrings. Because North Americans are known to be generous people. Well, they're not really known to be generous people. They're known to be fools with their money. So, hence the slogan, no dar papaya, don't give papaya. Let's see, started with money, but now 50,000 is like $50 to me. Now she does not ask for things more than 20,000. Wants to marry, but doesn't want to go to the United States, even for the next 18 months visa. My wife from Colombia had never wanted to go to the United States. She had a great life here, huge family. They partied every weekend. They were just a lot of fun. And she went to the United States because I had to go. And so that was it. It's funny because now I'm living in Colombia and she's living in the United States. She went back to university, got her teaching license so that she could teach again in the United States, and living pretty good life there. And you got a great point. When you're living on this economy and you're on a limited income like Social Security, and a lot of us down here, we don't have that large of a Social Security. We may look to somebody in poverty here like we have money, but truth is, we're spending what we have and we're paying our bills, and we want to live in a nice place, but we're not living at the Taj Mahal, So when you're living on this economy, you start to realize the real value of the money here. You put it in perspective. I'm not sitting there on a $4,000 to $8,000 a month paycheck in the United States, coming down here looking at where $2,000 is a great job. I'm down here living on basically middle to upper middle class money. So that doesn't make me rich, and it's easy if you're living middle class to have an expense that you weren't expecting and then be in a bind until you get paid again. So the money takes on a more real sense. It's not funny money anymore. There was a time when I looked at pesos and I instantly knew how much it was in dollars. But after a while, that goes away. I don't even think about dollars because I'm living in pesos. And so the dollars, I have to actually stop it. You see it here in the videos. If you go back videos 4 years ago, you could see me, boom, I knew it almost to the penny what it was going to be. So, okay, Mike, pretty much spot on there, Lauren. Yep, thank you. Free range, Meta Gringo here in Medellin, the Meta Woman on Instagram. He has bought her a motorcycle Nice cell phone and paying her rent. He is here to visit her, but found out Sancho is living with her. Yeah, you know, and he's going to be mad at her, but you should be mad at himself. He was an idiot. Why would you do that? Why? I mean, even if he had come down and visited her and had a nice week with her or something, you don't know enough to do things like that. And even if in the beginning she was serious, the fact that he did that lost all respect from her. And why would she want to be with somebody that she had absolutely no respect for? Tony, really enjoying this talk. As a middle-aged average guy, invisible to women, and planning on early retirement to Mexico City, this talk gives me hope. CIA trauma-based mind control. Why is it the Colombian women are so beautiful? I don't know. Levi's. Good genes. I don't know. But are all Colombian women beautiful? No. No. There's a lot of ugly ones. There's a lot of fat ones. You know, it's like everywhere. However, they seem to have a greater proportion of very attractive women. Now, I've never been one for the big boobies. I mean, I could care less. It doesn't matter to me. But for some reason, if you're into that, Colombia women are way more naturally endowed than anywhere I've ever been. And, you know, they talk about, you know, all the fake boobies and the plastic surgery in Colombia and stuff. I've never met, of course, I'm not in Medellin or Bogota. I've never met anybody that had that, nor have I really met anybody that needed it, you know? So, I don't know. Let's see, Charles. She does not know how much I have or that I will get max retirement in 18 months. I say I'm poor all the time. Gave her an iPhone 7 and just data is needed. She's very appreciative. Did ask for 15. Well, again, you have to gauge it out. You don't want to be a fool, but you don't want to be an ass. And if you're dealing with somebody that's poor, you got to take the good with the bad. And that means you're going to, if you want a relationship, you're going to have to help them out. And if you can't afford to help them out, then don't have that relationship. Work out something else. Work out something different. I think it's really important to know that. But don't be using your money and trying to buy a woman and then get angry with her because, you know, she used you. Did she use you, or did you throw yourself at her? And what's she supposed to do? Say no? You want to send me money for a motorcycle? Cool. Bring it. Want to send me money for you know, it's, you want to pay my rent every month? Go for it. But that doesn't mean you own me. And I'm going to keep living my life. So quit blaming the women. There are scumbags out there, but you know, who taught them? Who taught them to do those things? And that's why you see it mostly in Medellin, because you don't have a lot of foreigners like here in Armenia or Manizales or Pasto, or, you know, you pick a city. You know, most of the smaller cities of the countrysides of Colombia, they're not experiencing those things. Here in Armenia, a little bit. I keep my ear to the ground. I go on Tinder fairly often to see what's going on because I get asked so many questions. I try to keep up on what's happening. That's why I know the going rate of a high-end hooker here, 160,000 pesos for 2 hours. I look at that and I go, my God, that's, why would anybody go waste hundreds of thousands of pesos on a girl hoping to, you know, get lucky when he could just do that and walk away and, you know, have a clean conscience? Let's see, Dan, I need a rich woman. My OnlyFans page is not doing so well. Yeah, you know, I went on your OnlyFans page and I had to cancel my subscription. It just wasn't what I expected. It was very disappointing, to be honest with you. So I have to agree. You do need a rich woman. Do I? No, I don't need a rich woman. But I'd like a self-sufficient one. That would be pretty cool. Okay, I have how many? I probably have 6 or 7 female friends that are in the poverty to lower poverty. I don't know. I think I have one that might be in the extreme poverty end, but we're friends. And, we keep in touch once in a while. Once in a while, if I'm going to go out and do something, and if I invite them, I'll always pay for their lunch and pay for the bus. So an afternoon, we'll say a date, but it's more of a social thing. Might cost me 26,000 pesos, $10. How much is a maid in US dollars? I don't know. You have to do the conversion. Somebody asked me this on the conversion rate is 39.25. Divide that, say 1.5 million pesos by 39.25, and you'll know how much it is in US dollars as of today. And it can be less. It depends. It's not like, if you go to a maid service, it'd probably be considerably more than that. But if you're paying cash under the table kind of thing, I would say between $1 million, $1.5 million will probably get you a 5 or 6 day a week from 8 or 9 to 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah, certainly doable, and you'd be helping somebody out. So there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth. So you get a maid and you call up a hooker for Saturday night, and there you go. Could I afford that situation? Let me see. No. No. I have a number of female friends that are on the border of poverty to middle class. And it's interesting, they never ask me for anything. Unless I explicitly invite them to something, they tend to, and again, I can't say it's exactly this way, but for the most part, they'll pay their own way. They pay their own taxi or bus or wherever we're going to meet up. So, it's, if people are earning their money, they're kind of proud that they are. And I don't need, to ask you to do anything. So that's worldwide. People have pride. Unless they're scumbags, then they don't have pride. And then it's up to you to sort that out. We're going to go in halves on a maid for 3 days a week. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Here's what I do. I clean my own place, and I suck at it. Or maybe it's just not fun. I can clean from stem to stern in about an hour. But about once a month, somebody that I know who goes to school could use the money. I have her come in. She charges me 50,000 pesos, and she'll spend 4 or 5 hours here scrubbing the place down. And when she leaves, it smells very different, and it looks very different. I don't know. She has this magic thing, but when she cleans, it actually looks clean. And when I clean, it looks more like things got rearranged. Yeah. But that's one way to go, where I'm not paying a forever amount, but I can swing every 4 to 6 weeks, 50,000 set aside, and then my place gets real clean. So, all right. Ran over time. I hope you found useful information today. It's a topic I don't generally like to cover, but oh, Mr. Anonymous, that's funny. Gave a contribution, says not trying to throw my money around. Very funny. Thanks for keeping your channel going. Yeah. I think I'm going to put on my personal channel why I have to get contributions. I mean, I've talked about it in the past, but maybe in some detail, and why the coffee channel, which has been completely off the burner for over a week now because I was landlocked, but why the coffee channel is actually going to be an income stream. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm proud of it. I have no problem with people, making money. I have problems when people cheat or lie or scam in order to do it. That's why you won't see me selling real estate. Thanks very much for doing this topic. Yeah, I think I kept it pretty above board today. That's always a concern, because I got this problem. When people pose questions to me, I feel almost compelled to answer, and I'm not shy or embarrassed about things. And so I'll say things that in a public setting I might be too honest and too open, and it may not really be suitable, certainly for everybody. And so, I try to be careful of that. John C., how you doing? I have a live-in woman. She's 24. I pay her 1 million pesos plus her food, happy and content. Yeah, you can do that, particularly since she's not having to pay rent or food. The most of her life is taken care of, and she gets that 1 million pesos, and she can help her family. She can, you can find creative situations where everybody benefits from. What is that in dollars? Figure it out. You got a cell phone right in your hand. Use the calculator on it. Come on, dude. $500? No. What is that in dollars? 250? Yeah, about $250 maybe. Plus food. Okay. So I think that's it. We're running over. I kind of expected it today. I will give a last call. Any questions? If you have any questions, hit me up. True, she does help her family. I'm sure she does, because they're very family oriented here, and families are intact. And if she's living in poverty or before meeting you, then you can almost guarantee that her family would be. And so if she got money, she would take maybe almost all of her money and send it to her family, because that's just how they are here. And that's what they would expect from you if you were a boyfriend, that you invest in her the same way, because that's the mentality. It's not even about it's more about a trait. Being stingy is ugly, and that's not about getting your money, because if you don't have any money, that's okay too. But if you do have money and you're just trying to covet it all for yourself, that can be a pretty ugly trait if you have people that are more, I'd say, Christian in their belief. I just did, sorry. I was getting lazy. The reason I mention it to you, the reason I was busting on you and laughing, is I had a comment recently. Let me see if I can pull it up. It may take too long to find them. See if I can find it quickly. Let's see, comment. And there we go. Hold on. It was a comment I actually want to talk about. Of course, I'm not seeing it now. I'm just wasting your time here. Oh, Here we go. So I get a question here. What's the average rent in this area? Now we're talking about a particular barrio in Colombia. The average rent, you know, it's like, how do you average? I don't know. You know, it's like can go from 1 million to 5 million. I don't know. But looking at it, it's probably about 2 million and probably get you a nice place there. So I said 2 million. Now this is a comment on the channel typed out. How much in US dollars? What? Why should I go get a calculator? You want to know? You go figure it out. If you're contemplating living here, the very least you could do is figure out the exchange rate. So anyway, that's why I was laughing when you said that. They have currency calculators on the internet. It's easy to use. Uh-oh, my cat hates her. Well, it's her, the cat, and cats, I'll just tell you one thing. I learned when I was living in Asia, cats make delicious tacos. That's all I'm saying. Just divide by 4, you get approximate dollars. Yeah, it's kind of a pretty good rule of thumb. And that's the general difference between the U.S. economy and here. You know, whatever it is here, multiply times 4, and that's probably what it'll be in the United States. All right. So today, it was all about perspective, and I hope I gave you perspective. I'm hoping I gave you some things that you hadn't really thought of, and so it was actually useful to you, and not just saying things that you kind of already figured out or you already knew. But you never know. It bothers me to see people getting the bum rap. Anyway, that's it. So we're done. No more questions. Enjoy your Super Bowl. We had, to be honest, the cat stays, she goes. I don't know. It's easy to find a cat. Hard to find your situation. I don't know. But then I don't care for cats that much, except in tacos. Love them. Fran, yes, good perspective. Hey, how you doing? I thought I saw you lurking in the background there. Tony, I hope you consider revisiting this topic more often. I don't know what more. If you have some specific questions, email me. And maybe I can answer an email. I've had a couple people that would pay me on a Skype call. I charge if it's a Skype call on a one-on-one where I get very specific about things. I'm not soliciting that. I'm just saying that there's options for it. Like as I said earlier, I'm not all that comfortable talking about this in a public forum because I don't want to say things that are not appropriate, and sometimes I don't have the best filter. So, and my channel isn't about, you don't see me going out. Most of the YouTubers in Colombia are kind of, it's either cost of living or checking out the chicks. And I hate the cost of living one because there's so many variables, it's almost impossible. And then checking out the chicks, I mean, I don't know, I'm just, it's not my thing. If I want to make money, it would be my thing, because that's why those guys do it. They're doing it because every time they put a pretty girl on the thumbnail and they talk about the red light district or hot girls in Medellin or guess what girlfriend I found in the barrio or things like that, they get 1 million views and they make money. One, YouTube doesn't pay me anything, so that won't happen. But two, it's not who I am. It's not what I do. Tony, you did a great job today. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we're going to end it here. Thank you for all the support, contributions. Thank you for not trying to throw your money around, but doing it anyway. And enjoy the Super Bowl. I will see you next week. and I'll see if I can kick this coffee channel back into gear. Ciao.
Bye.